Their first time on the mat is massively uncomfortable. But the more exposure you get to it, the more conversations you have with your inner self, the more that you correct and change that language and you're really focusing on identity piece, your emotions, your thinking, the easier it gets, where it becomes just like a pattern. So you start to notice something you say out loud, chaos is comfortable. Oh, that's actually not a true statement. I have previously been very comfortable in chaos, but the new change that I'm making is to seek the solution, the problems that I'm facing consciously and do it with action. Because what's really comfortable for me is a life of fulfillment where I get to be at peace. You start changing that language, start changing the stories that you're using, everything else starts to fall into place. But this is the work, guys.
Aaron,
Yo.
would this kind of feel like that imposter syndrome? Because as I was working through those questions just mentally, I could feel like an person. Am I the adult who has autonomy and can reteach myself, or am I still that child who's like, chaos is comfortable, I don't deserve this? Like, you should almost feel that imposter syndrome a little bit, but then understand that the man on the other side, who's actually you, who's saying that, well, instead of chaos is comfortable, in Josh's case, it's I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's like that correction there, right? Like that imposter syndrome correction.
Yes. Let me digest what you're saying and make sure I've got the context for it. So we've all experienced imposter syndrome at some point where we start something new and we feel like we don't belong there. It feels out of alignment, out of integrity. It just feels unfamiliar. And so that is very normal when we approach anything new. And the truth behind it is you are an imposter because you've never done it before. And so you think about, I'm going to bring it back to jiu-jitsu. The first time a white belt shows up on the mat for his very first class, he's going to have every single insecurity flare up. I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I'm too fat. I'm not athletic. I'm not good enough. I'm whatever it was. Like all that garbage is going to show up in the head. And all of that is relatively true because they don't have the reps, the sets, or the seasons like the blue belts, brown belts, and black belts. And so they are an imposter because they've never done the thing before. The only way that we shift from that imposter syndrome shifting into a powerful, empowering identity is we keep showing up and doing the reps. The white belt will always be an imposter in jiu-jitsu until it starts getting its first stripe, second stripe, and progresses through the ranks. So it has to keep coming back and keep getting beaten a little bit. That's the same in every single domain. And so if you start something new, if you step into a new line of work, and you're like, man, day one, I feel like an imposter. I don't belong here. Well, what you're doing is you're comparing your chapter 1 to everyone else's chapter 10. And so you are an imposter because you're not seasoned yet. And so the imposter syndrome is a good indicator that you're going to be developing, new behaviors. This goes back to the ways that we learn. There's 4 ways that we learn. First way is unconscious incompetence. And so you don't know what you don't know. You just feel out of place. The second level is conscious incompetence. You are aware that you don't know anything. And so right now you might feel in that unconscious or that conscious incompetence. This may feel like this is all foreign. I have to talk to my inner child. Oh my God, I can't believe I've been sharing all these stories that are completely untrue. So you are conscious that you're incompetent. And that's normal for learning. Your third step to learning is conscious competence. It takes conscious change to make conscious change. And so you're aware of the things you need to do differently. Okay, so Aaron told me that when I hear an old story that's not true, I need to replace it with a new story that is true. And so maybe you have a note card. I have note cards all the time because when there's something I learn and I really want to integrate it, I put it on a note card and I carry it around with me until it becomes the fourth step of learning, which is unconscious competence. You do it without even thinking about it. So now there's part of my storytelling, my affirmation that I don't think about. I just wake up in the morning. Today is the day that God has made. Today is the day that the Lord has made, and I'm blessed to be a blessing to others. That becomes something I just say when I get out of bed. I previously had to have a note card next to my bed to get my day started with positive affirmations. Otherwise, I get into a vicious cycle of overthinking, or I go into my worry, or I go into something else. And so I had to go into a season where I was consciously competent, putting a note card or affirmations on my wall, on my mirror. So I would retrain my programming. I had to be very, very conscious about it. Just like in jiu-jitsu, when the instructor shows something, I'm asking, hey, can you watch me do this? And so I'm getting some accountability. I'm getting some support. Yes, that's the right mechanic. That's where your hand goes. That's where your foot goes, etc. So I'm consciously trying to create this into competence. So eventually it gets to the point where I just wake up in the morning, I say the thing, or I get in the mat and I just do the thing because I've trained it for so long.